In late 2024, I found myself in India. It was supposed to be a brief visit, just a routine passport renewal. But a single piece of paper, a document that had always felt like a mere formality, became a barrier between me and my life in Germany. What started as a 2 week stay turned into a couple of months. Meetings were missed, work opportunities slipped away, and every day felt like a waiting game. A waiting game for a piece of paper that defined where I could or couldn't go. And as the days stretched into weeks, a question kept surfacing. How can a simple document, a passport, hold so much power? Welcome as you're listening to Thread by Thread, a podcast where each episode unravels a new thread, connecting stories of power, people, and the forces shaping our world. I'm Dheeraj Kumar, and today we're starting with the story of the passport, how it has evolved from a mere travel document to a powerful tool that can shape or shatter a life. During those months in India, every visit to the passport office felt like stepping into a bureaucratic maze. The forms, the questions, the endless waiting, and all the while, life in Germany continued without me. I remember a call from a potential opportunity, a project that could have opened new doors, but I was still in India, still waiting for that passport. And when the call ended, so did the opportunity. What struck me most was how much power was wrapped up in that small rectangular booklet. Without it, I wasn't just a person. I was a person without a nationality, without access, without a way to move. But my experience was temporary. For others, the wait never ends.
Maha Mamo was born to Syrian parents in Lebanon, but because of conflicting nationality laws, she wasn't recognized as a citizen of either country. For years, she lived as a ghost, a stateless person, without identity papers, without a passport, without a home. Imagine not being able to go to school, not being able to travel, not even being able to open a bank account. Maha spent nearly 3 decades in that limbo until Brazil granted her citizenship in 2018. But Maha's story is not unique. According to the UNHCR, there are over 10 million stateless people worldwide, and each of them is living without the protections and rights that a passport provides. A passport can open doors, but for those without one, every door is closed, and the economic cost of that exclusion is staggering.
The lottery of birth in citizenship creates stark economic inequalities. A person's passport often determines where they can live or work, limiting many people's access to better opportunities. For example, a worker from Haiti could earn 6 or 7 times more doing the exact same job in the United States than in Haiti, simply because they'd be far more productive and better paid in the US economy. That huge wage gap represents a lost opportunity for both the individual and the global economy. When such a worker is blocked at the border, it doesn't just hurt the migrant, it also takes away the economic contribution that they could make to the world. As economist Michael Clemens explains, in other words, millions of talented or hard-working people are economically excluded by limited mobility, stuck in places where their productivity and earnings are far below what they could achieve elsewhere. This is a massive inefficiency. The world isn't getting the full benefit of these people's skills due to something as arbitrary as nationality. Nationality based visa constraints create opportunity costs for high skilled workers and the economies that need them. Consider the case of skilled engineers or doctors from developing countries who cannot take jobs abroad because of strict visa quotas. In the United States, for instance, demand for the H-1B skilled worker visa far exceeds supply. In 2023, there were about 780,000 applications for only 85,000 slots, meaning roughly 700,000 would be skilled workers were turned away. Each of those denied represents a double loss for the professional who must settle for a lower paying or less optimal job, and for the destination country's economy, which misses out on filling a productive role. Across the world, similar stories abound. Tech companies in Canada or Germany scramble to hire talent, while qualified programmers in Brazil or India can't get visas. Hospitals in rural America or Japan lack doctors, while physicians in other countries drive taxis because their citizenship or credentials bar them from practicing abroad. These mismatches add up. Economists call this a labor market misallocation. Talented workers who could create more value in one place are stuck elsewhere. In fact, research suggests that global output could roughly double if all immigration restrictions were removed, eliminating this misallocation. That highlights how enormous the opportunity cost of the status quo is. We are leaving trillion-dollar bills on the sidewalk by not allowing labor to flow where it's most productive. In a frictionless market, big wage differences should even out as workers move to higher paying jobs, a form of economic arbitrage. But passport rules largely prevent this equalization, enforcing a segmented global labor market. Wages for the same work can differ by multiples between countries, and immigration restrictions lock in these disparities. For example, when a Haitian construction worker can earn 5 to 7 times more in real terms doing the same job in Florida than in Port au Prince, that signals an arbitrage opportunity being missed. Migration is the mechanism to arbitrage those differences. The worker benefits, and so does the host economy, since wages reflect the value the worker adds. However, because visa regimes strictly limit such movement, we get persistent inefficiencies. Labor shortages and surpluses coexist. Rich countries face aging populations and labor gaps, while young workers elsewhere face underemployment. Japan is a striking example. It has severe labor shortages and an aging workforce, yet its immigration policy historically barred most unskilled foreign labor. Only recently has Japan started modestly opening channels for workers, and still very reluctantly. The result of such policies is that industries suffer or jobs go unfilled in one country, even as willing workers in another country are idle or underutilized. A clear lose lose. Studies confirm there are significant economic costs for both sides under restrictive visa policies, whereas more liberal mobility would help match workers to where they are needed and help poorer countries partake more in the benefits of economic globalization. Meanwhile, the global rich often buy their way around mobility barriers via golden visas or citizenship by investment programs. Dozens of countries sell residency or passports to those who can invest a hefty sum. On paper, these programs bring in foreign investment, but they also create distorted incentives and rent seeking. Essentially, citizenship becomes a commodity. Instead of being about belonging or merit, it's for sale to the highest bidder. This can encourage corruption on both sides. A report by Global Financial Integrity notes that golden passport programs encourage rent seeking and bribery at the government level. Officials may personally profit by funneling investor funds into pet projects or even accepting kickbacks. On the individual side, these programs often attract not just legit investors but also shady characters, kleptocrats, tax evaders, even fugitives seeking a visa insurance policy. There have been cases of sanctioned oligarchs obtaining a second passport to dodge travel bans or wealthy criminals laundering money via investment for passport schemes. In economic terms, golden visas highlight a perverse situation. Mobility rights, which are artificially scarce, get allocated not to the most skilled or needy, but to those willing to pay. Countries like Portugal and Malta raised billions by selling passports, but faced criticism that this pumped up luxury real estate prices and provided few benefits to locals. The European Union has even moved to shut down golden passport schemes, arguing that European citizenship is not for sale and that such programs undermine the mutual trust between nations. In summary, rather than fixing the inefficiencies of the system, golden visa programs often exploit those inefficiencies, turning passports into a vehicle for arbitrage and rent seeking and reinforcing the notion that mobility is a privilege of the wealthy. This leaves the fundamental economic inefficiency, the misallocation of human talent, largely unaddressed. Passports and citizenship aren't just economic tools, they have become potent geopolitical weapons. Governments use citizenship status, visa access, and border controls as instruments of diplomacy, leverage, and sometimes retaliation. In this section, we explore how nationality policies play into power politics, with real world cases from 2020 to 2025. Nation states have discovered that granting or revoking citizenship can serve strategic ends. A dramatic example is Russia's passportization strategy in conflict zones. Since 2019, the Kremlin has been fast tracking Russian passports to residents of eastern Ukraine, Donbas, and other contested areas. By 2022, hundreds of thousands in Donbas had received Russian citizenship. This was not humanitarian. It gave Moscow a pretext to claim it was protecting Russian citizens when it intervened militarily. In effect, granting passports became a form of soft annexation. On the flip side, countries also revoke citizenship as punishment. The UK, for instance, has controversially stripped citizenship from some dual nationals involved with terrorist groups, most famously the ISIS bride cases, as a way to wash its hands of problematic individuals. Russia again provides a recent example. Amid the war effort, laws were passed to revoke the citizenship of naturalized Russians who dodge military service, using the threat of statelessness to enforce loyalty. These tactics show citizenship being used as a tool of retaliation and control. If you defy us, we'll nullify your status, and if it suits us, we'll make you one of ours. Another form of retaliation is visa sanctions. In 2020, after the US limited visas for Chinese state media journalists, Beijing retaliated by expelling at least 13 American journalists from China. Tit for tat visa wars like this turn individual passports into pawns in larger disputes. Similarly, during diplomatic spats, it's not uncommon for countries to suspend visa waivers or impose new entry restrictions on the other side's citizens. These moves send a political message by inconveniencing ordinary travelers and signaling that if you make life hard for our people, we'll do the same. In summary, citizenship and visa decisions, who gets a passport, who can enter or stay, have become part of the statecraft arsenal, used to reward allies, punish adversaries, or shore up domestic agendas. The rise of dual or multiple citizenship has created complex loyalty puzzles that some states are uneasy about. While many people today hold dual citizenship as a practical matter, governments sometimes view it with suspicion, especially in geopolitical conflicts. Legal conflicts can arise when dual nationals are caught between countries. For example, Iran and China do not recognize dual citizenship. If a Canadian Iranian or American Chinese is detained in Tehran or Beijing, the authorities there treat them solely as Iranian or Chinese, blocking consular help from the other country. This has led to painful episodes where dual citizens become geopolitical hostages. A notorious case was Canada's two Michaels, Canadian citizens held by China for over 1,000 days, 2018 to 2021, in retaliation for Canada arresting a Chinese tech executive. Although not dual citizens, their ordeal signaled how any foreign national or dual national can be caught in great power crossfire. In other instances, countries have passed laws specifically targeting dual citizens seen as disloyal. The Baltic states gave a recent example. Latvia in 2022 empowered its government to strip Latvian citizenship from dual nationals who actively support Russia's war crimes in Ukraine. This law was clearly aimed at Latvia's sizable Russian-speaking minority, a warning that cheering on Putin could cost them their Latvian or EU passport as long as they have another citizenship to fall back on. Such measures underscore the precariousness of dual status in times of tension. One's second passport might be taken away for acting against a country's national interest. Even in peaceful contexts, dual citizens may face restrictions. Some countries ban dual citizens from holding public office or require them to renounce other allegiances to demonstrate loyalty. Australia and a few other democracies have had political crises when elected officials were found to unknowingly hold a second citizenship, forcing resignations. All of this shows that dual citizenship, while offering individuals more freedom, can become a flashpoint. It raises questions of allegiance. Which side are you on? And can trigger revocations if a state decides a dual national has crossed a line. The period 2020 to 2025 saw multiple such dilemmas as heightened geopolitical rivalries led governments to scrutinize where people's loyalties lie based on their passports.
Sometimes not granting a passport or visa is just as strategic as granting one. A stark example is the plight of the Rohingya people in Myanmar. For decades, Myanmar's government has denied the Rohingya citizenship, effectively rendering this minority stateless in their own homeland. This deliberate denial, enshrined in a 1982 law, served to marginalize and oppress the Rohingya, ultimately fueling a brutal ethnic cleansing in 2017 and a refugee crisis spilling into neighboring countries. Here, the refusal of citizenship was used as a tool of control. By not recognizing people as citizens, the state denied them rights and pushed them out. The geopolitical fallout has been significant. Myanmar's actions strained its relations with Muslim majority neighbors and became a humanitarian issue on the world stage. Another form of strategic denial is when countries refuse visas to specific groups or nationals to make a point. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic and other crises, we saw travel bans that were as much political as they were protective. The US Muslim majority country travel ban, though initiated in 2017, continued into 2020 before being lifted, sending a signal of exclusion to certain nations. More recently, in response to the Ukraine war, several European countries suspended tourist visas for Russian citizens, a symbolic move to pressure the Russian populace and signal outrage at Putin's invasion. Likewise, Russia and China have blacklists of foreign officials or scholars who are denied entry due to their outspoken views, a form of visa retaliation on individuals. In the Middle East, Gulf states have historically denied citizenship to large expatriate populations. For example, generations of Palestinian refugees or foreign workers in the Gulf remain non citizens as a way to avoid integrating groups that might upset the political status quo. These people live and labor in those countries for years but with no path to citizenship, a strategic choice by the host nations to keep their populace pure or homogeneous and to retain leverage, since a non citizen can be expelled more easily. The efficiency of such policies is dubious. They often breed long term instability or resentment, but politically, they allow states to exert control over demographic and diplomatic outcomes. In summary, strategic denials of citizenship or visas are used to exclude or pressure groups in a way that serves a regime's goals, whether that's cementing ethnic dominance, signaling disapproval, or avoiding international obligations. Perhaps the most visceral way passport and visa policies play out is at physical borders. In recent years, we've seen borders themselves become bargaining chips, with human beings used as the leverage. In 2021, Belarus orchestrated a dramatic border crisis by luring migrants from the Middle East and pushing them toward Poland and Lithuania. Belarus's president, retaliating against EU sanctions on his regime, essentially weaponized migration, creating a humanitarian crisis on the EU's doorstep to force a political reaction. Stranded in freezing forests, these migrants became pawns in a geopolitical chess match between Minsk, backed by Moscow, and Brussels. Similarly, in 2020, Turkey's president Erdogan leveraged his country's position as gatekeeper to Europe. At one point, Turkey opened the gates, allowing thousands of refugees and migrants to cross toward Greece, explicitly to extract concessions from the EU. Erdogan warned that millions more could head to Europe if Turkey didn't receive more support. A bold use of border pressure to get attention for Turkey's own burdens and geopolitical aims in Syria. Another case came in May 2021 when Morocco tacitly allowed over 6,000 migrants to rush the Spanish enclave of Ceuta in North Africa. This sudden influx happened just after Spain angered Morocco by admitting a Western Sahara independence leader for medical treatment. It appeared to be a calculated punishment. Morocco unleashed a migrant surge to pressure Spain, a textbook example of using a border to make a point. These incidents illustrate a concept termed weapons of mass migration by political scientists, using people, refugees, or migrants as instruments to destabilize or influence another country. The threat of mass migration or the chaos of an open border can indeed be potent. It preys on the target country's fears of uncontrolled influx and can force them to the negotiating table. While this tactic is not new, even during the Cold War, Cuba's Fidel Castro sent boatloads of people to the US in the Mariel boat lift to achieve political goals. It has re-emerged in contemporary geopolitics. Border politics are also evident in how countries fortify frontiers or externalize control. The EU has poured resources into border fences and deals with transit countries like paying Libya or Turkey to hold migrants, essentially exporting its border. The US, similarly, has pressured Mexico to curb migrant caravans before they reach the Rio Grande. Each of these is a maneuver recognizing that who crosses the border or doesn't is a matter of high politics. In summary, from Belarus to the Mediterranean, we've seen that manipulating passport and visa access at borders can give regimes an unconventional form of leverage over their neighbors, though at a grave cost to the people caught in the middle.
In today's interconnected world, passports and visas are much more than bureaucratic documents. They are gatekeepers of opportunity and instruments of power. Economically, our restrictive global mobility system leaves huge value on the table, barring people from places where they could thrive and contribute the most. The result is lost growth, talent waste, and even a market for workaround schemes like golden visas. Geopolitically, citizenship and border controls have become a currency of influence. Governments use them to reward friends, punish enemies, and signal their sovereignty. From the skilled engineer stuck in the wrong country to the refugee used as a bargaining chip between nations, the human stakes are enormously high. Addressing these issues requires reimagining mobility, not as a zero sum privilege, but as a potential win win. Until then, we will continue to grapple with the inefficiencies of a world where your passport can dictate your economic destiny and where politics can dictate your passport. The stories from 2020 to 2025 make one thing clear: the way we manage passports and citizenship resonates far beyond airports and consulates. It shapes the very fabric of the global economy and international relations. By understanding these hidden costs and power plays, we can better navigate and perhaps reform this passport paradigm in the future. That's another thread pulled, but the fabric still tangled. If you found something worth thinking about, consider following the show and sharing it with someone who might too. You can listen to all episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Dheeraj Kumar, and I'll see you next time as we pull another thread from the fabric of our world.